Welcome everybody! Did you hear that Elden Ring came out in 2022? And it had a shitty open world with copy-pasted boss fights and it didn't have proper PvP. It might have some of the best Dark Souls stuff in the series. The traditionally designed areas are just amazing to play and the playstyles that you can pick are just wonderfully customizable. But then you go into the open world where combat and exploration is meaningless and you can't even use the cool gear that you found to own someone in PvP because they fucked up the invasion system, making it so that the invader is always outnumbered. So I made it my life's mission to find 10 games for my top 10 list of the games that I played in 2022 that are better than this horrible disappointment called Elden Ring. And I did. I had to play so many games to find these few good ones, okay? It was almost as bad as wandering the open world of Elden Ring trying to find something interesting. There are a lot of bad games out there, okay? But then it was all for nothing, because without almost any announcement, Elden Ring had just randomly dropped the PvP patch that allows players to fight each other in the Colosseum. So now Elden Ring is barely good enough to make it on my list of games that I've played in 2022. This PvP would have been so good at launch. What are you fucking doing, From Software? Now I'm getting murdered by all these freaks that still played Elden Ring 10 months after launch. Yeah, of course they would be good at it. That's not fair, and they've got all these stupid fancy weapons that they've found. Great, guess my builds are just awful at PvP. Too bad, these would have been great at Dark Souls 3, but now everyone has these stupid weapon arts that removes all my blood from my body within seconds. And I'm not gonna bother getting a good build for this game, okay? You had your chance and you missed it. Well, you know what, you're still on the list. I'm not going to bother getting a good build for this now. Anyways, this video is about the top 10 best games I've played in 2022, regardless of when they came out. And number 10 is Elden Ring. Congratulations! Even the worst Souls game still makes it on my list, thanks to the magic of free content patches coming out 10 months late. I really hate how this is the Souls game that made the most money. People love open worlds, even if they are just there to waste their time. Why, you could have just played Dark Souls 3 several times, it would have been better, trust me. You guys are settling for mediocrity. Anyways, number 11, Springfall. It's a cute little puzzle game, not crazy hard I'd say. I guess a standard puzzle game is so challenging that I cannot complete it and I give up at like 80%. So this must be a good bit easier than that because I actually managed to beat it. I think it only has like 50 puzzles, but I enjoyed the simplistic visuals. Too bad Elden Ring had to dethrone it from number 10. Number 9, Railbound. Another cute puzzle game, but a bit harder this time. I gave up on it at 95%, but not because it was too hard, but because the solutions seemed to be too arbitrary and stupid, and there was no walkthrough yet. Too much trial and error in the last level of this one. Also, I uploaded a walkthrough for the first 6 areas of the game before anyone else, and it got a bunch of views on that channel where I upload gameplay footage without commenting on it. I wish I had uploaded that on the main channel. Could have gotten some views. Anyways, I respect the simplicity of the game, and it feels more like an actual game than Springfall's because the graphics are not the most simplified thing ever. You know what I mean? It's like a programmer made it with no need for 3D assets, just using the most basic shapes instead. Which I also respect. Okay, I'm torn, but both of the games are worth playing. Number 8, Wandering Village. This is one of the games where the concept is so new and unique that I almost wish I owned it. It's a city builder, but the city is built on the back of a massive brontosaurus beast, which means that you have exploration in a city game. That's so cool. There should be more games about moving cities like that Peter Jackson movie. In Wandering Village they have a cute little art style where 2D buildings are built on a 3D map, which works surprisingly well, probably because you can't turn the camera. When I played it, it was in early access and it had some issues that bothered me. Like an unsatisfying endgame that goes on forever, where the only input you have is switching the crops to whatever grows in the current climate your stupid beast is wandering around in. And it didn't even have a convenient way to cycle through all the farms to do that quickly. Also, hunger was really poorly implemented in this game, because if you're missing one ration over a period of a week, you'll just have one dead person. What the fuck? They couldn't have shared their rations? Nobody's gonna die because they miss a single meal, okay? Equally, your beast starts losing health when you're running out of food, even when it isn't empty yet. What the fuck? That's a bullshit death that you won't see coming the first time. Especially if you have other things that drain your health. So if you stub your toe, but you also missed the lunch, oops, death. And of course all your people die too, because they're on the back of the beast, that's now a rotting carcass. Does that make sense? Do whales starve in a single day? Probably not. They're made of blubber after all. Anyways, let's hope they do some basic reading on survival soon and learn that animals can usually survive 2 weeks without food, and that goes for humans too. Like when a game has food and water, I try to stay higher on water than on food because you die after 3 days without water, but you can live 3 weeks without food. Am I crazy for doing that? Well, hopefully they tweak this stuff and make it more interesting and challenging choices for the player to make in the endgame. Alright, number 7, Song of Conquest, a turn-based game like those old Heroes of Might and Magic. Did those stop being good, or were they never good? Anyway, this is at least somewhat good. Played it in early access, but it only had 2 levels, aka 2 hours worth of content for me at the time, and I loved it. I didn't really get back into it, so I'm putting it here on faith, okay? I'm hoping they didn't fuck it up, Don't really know if it holds up as promised, but whatever, look at it. It's the kind of game where you got pixel art and this kind of gameplay. So it really depends if you like those 2 things, and then you'll probably enjoy this game. Alright, number 6, Life Slide. It's an adorable game where you fly a little paper airplane until you realize your stats are too low to keep flying until you grind a lot. It's really why? Weird. Is this social commentary or lazy game design? Could have been higher on the list without the grinding, okay? Like, why on earth do I have to keep playing in order to increase my stats? It's so stupid. Like, it doesn't even make sense if you're saying, oh, if you play longer, you get better stats because that way you don't have to be good, you can just make up for it by grinding. But what? You're not gonna have skill that allows you to stop yourself from running into the ground because there isn't enough upwind. Jesus, it's so stupid. So, like, I don't see how this works. You just have to keep dying a few times, okay? But it's still a really fun game, and I wish there were more cute flight simulators like this, okay? It's a really cool concept, alright? Take out the fucking grinding. Number 5, Zeus, the Master of Olympus. Now that's a game from my childhood. It's full of bugs and very strange at times, but boy do I love the nostalgia. Also, it had this weird system where buildings didn't have an area effect. Instead, the fire building sends out the fireman and he removes the fire hazard buildup from all the buildings that he walks by. And the same goes for other builders. Vendors, athletes, poets, they just all walk around randomly. So you gotta confine the people to an area where you want them to be active in by building the roads in a certain pattern and closing off the roads with a tile that stops wandering characters and makes them turn around. And then the houses that are supplied by goods and culture by people walking by them turn into larger houses that are more fancy and have more people in them. And that's so cool. Wish there was a remake, it's just such an interesting system. Also, the gods are real, and when you build a temple, they walk around in your city. That's pretty neat. Breaking news! They just remastered Pharaoh! It's a new era! That's amazing! I was just thinking, man, I wish this kind of game would make a return, and here it is! Woo! Pharaoh, Zeus, and Caesar 3 are all very similar games originally, but I only played Zeus. Sadly, it seems that Pharaoh isn't nearly as good as Zeus when it comes to the mission structure or the balance of the game. Unless they fucked it up in the remake, I don't know. Also, apparently this version is full of bugs. I didn't notice too many, but if you set the tax rate to 100%, you get tons of money and people won't be able to flee your city fast enough. Take that, peasants. So that's weird. I guess the economy is just pretty broken and you don't really have any idea how much the people will like you. Oh well. Anyways, I'm 10 hours into Pharaoh and the missions have not been interesting yet. And it took forever to be done with the tutorial. In Zeus, the first mission is to build a city. Then it gives you further goals to do in the very same city. Then eventually you have to build a colony, which is cool. Yeah, starting over with all your new knowledge of how to do it. Makes sense. But then, oh my god, after the colony mission was over, you return back to your previous city? My mind was blown. I love that it saved my previous city and it was able to give me new goals within it. That's amazing. I just get to keep building my city. So good. Then eventually I built an army huge enough and conquered all of Greece. Okay, that part was optional. I think he'd only wanted you to conquer a few other cities. Well, I earned it, okay? I conquered everyone. In Pharaoh, it just asked me to build 10 cities that weren't connected, and I had to start over every time. How boring. Well, anyways, stay tuned to find out if Pharaoh A New Era makes it onto my list next year. Anyways, returning to this list. Number 4, Void Run. This is a cute little pixel art game where you fight enemies by putting your balls around them. By stretching your trail of balls around them until they blow up. That you bother them with your balls. I really suck at this game, but I respect the visuals and the design. It would help if the keyboard controls were better though. Currently, this is the only game that I ever thought that it would be worthwhile to use a controller for, because the keyboard controls are just not there, okay? All the other games, like Elden Ring, I can play with keyboard. Like, I'm so bad at controllers that my keyboard controls are superior, okay? But not for this game. This game, like, actually needs a controller. Number 3, Shotgun King. Did you know that there's a game where you play chess with a shotgun? Well, you probably wouldn't have guessed it, but this game is actually one of the best roguelikes ever made. The other one being Brutal Orchestra, by the way. That's right, they finally made another good one. And this game is incredibly unique. It actually respects chess a lot more than you'd think from a game where you shoot chess pieces with a shotgun. It actually works so well. The story is that the Black King is an awful tyrant, which is why the White King is leading an army against him to revolt against him. And all the pieces have an interesting personality, conveyed entirely through gameplay. Pawns come towards you until they reach the end of the board, and then they promote into another piece. Knights are the most mobile ones, and they will be able to jump over the pawns and hunt you down. Rooks are usually stuck behind walls, but when they come out, they block a lot of the area of play, so you're gonna be able to deal with them quickly. And bishops, they always get you out of nowhere, because they're just hanging out at the edge of the map. Really annoying. And queens, of course, are the most deadly figures. Yes, queens. You can get multiple queens. Anyways, the interesting part is that you can upgrade the other team as well as your own shotgun. So you pick less powerful upgrades for the other team, but sometimes it's bundled with a really good upgrade for you, so you gotta take that one, alright? So here, let me give you some examples for upgrades. One of them is called Pikeman, which makes the pawns able to attack 2 tiles in front of them, which is very in line with them just being little soldiers. They lose the ability to attack sideways, by the way, so it's very interesting. And then there's another upgrade for them, which is called Militia, which makes them be able to attack into 4 directions, the pawns specifically. And now you don't want to get both of those at once, because then you'll have Pikeman that can attack in all 4 directions. Woohoo! Yeah, they really poke you, man. And I like the fact that they actually have an animation for killing you, even though it's something that you will very rarely see. When they really thrust your pike at you, okay? It's neat. Another upgrade they can get is Assault, which means that they can move 2 steps instead of 1 on the first time they move. And this is just great, because this is one of the additions that was made in real-life chess to make it less boring, like 500 years ago, allowing pawns to move 2 squares instead of 1 in the similar way. So I love that they have this history built into the game, and it's just like a little upgrade, okay? I mean, there's no flavor text to it. It's just something that you know about if you know about chess, you know? Another upgrade for the pawns is called the Secret Heir, which means that one of the pawns can get promoted into a king. So when you kill the king, oops, you got another king there. Okay, you guys might think I'm nerding out here, but I just love the fact that they made the lore of the story, including the possibility that the king had sex with a commoner and created a secret heir that is fighting in the army, okay? By the way, this upgrade can really mess with you because you think you've won, but oh no, a new king emerges. Anyways, that's how the game upgrades the pieces without each one of them losing their personality, and it's just so interesting, you know? Sometimes you'll have a game where the pawns are really good, sometimes you'll have a game where you get like lots of one of the other pieces, and then you get an upgrade for that, and oh no, now you really gotta watch out for them. And it's different every time, which is more than you can say for most roguelikes out there, okay? Like, it's so hard to believe that this little game of chess has so much variety to it, and then like, you play fucking Dead Cells, and it's basically the same every time. Eat shit, Dead Cells. I could talk about the amazing upgrades that are available in this game forever, and I haven't even talked about the player upgrades yet, you know? I love how you have a shotgun and your stats are spread, range, and damage. And it's so good because, like, you shoot single bullets and they do 1 damage each, so if you get damage upgrade, you shoot more bullets. If you have spread, if you have more spread, then the bullets are more spread out. And the range is how far they will go. It's so good. And not to say that the upgrades are just stat upgrades. They're really interesting too, you know. They got their cute little characteristics and they're recognizable. Everything's great. Like, there are the royal loafers that you can get, and they allow you to move while shooting. So in a turn you can click somewhere, and then you can click somewhere else, and then you shoot the first place, and then you go to second. And then there's an upgrade that allows you to do a taunting hop over one of the enemy pieces. So when you have both of those, you can lock onto the piece and then hop over it. So you do a flip over it while shooting it. And that's so good. It obviously only works if there's an empty space behind it. So it's not the most overpowered thing ever, but it's really good. And it's really balanced, and the game is great. Anyways, one more thing that I find interesting about this game is the achievements. The interesting ones are variations on win the game using these 3 arbitrary cards that we listed. Like I was talking about the pikeman and the militia. If you get those 2 and another upgrade for the pawns, I don't know which one, then that's an achievement. But yeah, you know, doing that means that you upgrade the pawns into a deadly force that will be a real problem to fight, okay? So it's a really interesting achievement, and I love that they put it in. And it highlights the fact that the game actually has this synergy, because you could play this game for a while without realizing that militia and pikeman stacks, and they actually put in the effort, you know? But then here's the achievement actually highlighting an interesting thing about the game, unlike other achievements out there in other games. I've never seen this type of achievement system before, I don't think. Like a roguelike where you have to get like the same 3 items, and then that's how you get an achievement. That's great. Well, you have to win with those items. And yes, it's true that it's very random, okay? But the skill that goes into it is remembering all the achievement combos and which ones you need to be picking in order to have a chance to get achievements. And that's more interesting than whatever other people do whenever they grind achievements, okay? Except for one achievement that's currently unobtainable. And that one requires 5 specific cards, and you only get 12 card slots. That's like winning the lottery. This is so stupid. I really hope you fix this. Anyways, this game is fucking awesome. Really addictive. Number 2, Blasphemous. This game is a few years old, I guess. I wasn't too into it at the time, but after the disappointment that was Elden Ring, it was so good to see the soul of a Dark Souls game in this little neat Metroidvania game. It has a very fancy pixel art style. The ending is kinda dumb, and there's this one spell that's better than any of the others that allows you to steamroll all the bosses, and it's magic balls that twirl around you. So I'm glad that the ball theme is still here. So I am glad that it's a very hard game where you can cheese it by slapping the bosses with your balls. Okay, I might be short selling it here. It's a really fun, beautiful game with a great atmosphere, and very difficult. Well, I guess it depends. It didn't take me too long, but Purple has some problems with it. They made what appears to be a free expansion that has bosses that are way harder than the main ones, and that's weird. You'd think that if they made bosses that are harder than the main ones, they would come at the end. I almost quit in the face of this overwhelming difficulty, especially because you don't know this boss is optional because the map is so obtuse. Oh well, whatever, just act like it's the final boss, I guess. Number 1, Slipways. In this game you build a civilization by colonizing planets and building trade routes between them. Let's say you have an ocean planet. If you want to colonize it, you want to supply it with minerals so that the people can build islands, I assume. So you will need a mineral planet. Or you can turn the water planet into an algae farm, and then you just need to supply it with biomass and robots. Or if you want to export the water, you can just supply it with manpower, and they will export the water for you. So if you have a desert planet where you build cities, then that's a good combination with the water planet that supplies water. The challenge comes from the fact that you don't know what the planet will have around it. But almost every action takes a month to do, and you only have 25 years to build the strongest network of planets that you can. If too many planets have their needs go unmet, then your approval ratings will drop a lot. If a planet can trade with 2 or 3 planets, it will level up and become more prosperous, meaning it will generate more points and more money and more research. But not only city planets can level up like in civilizations. Even if you have a farm planet or a mining planet, they can all reach the same prosperity level as cities, just as long as they have resources that can be exported and imported from other planets. What's also very important is research. Some research might enable you to find a different use for a planet. Maybe you can research a special type of robot that can mine water from an ice planet. Or maybe you can get a terraformer instead and turn that ice planet into an ocean planet. Or maybe you can just enable brainwashing to remove the negative effects of your population being unhappy because they're starving. The core concept is that you can pick a few technologies, but you can never get all the technologies. I like this game because it has an interesting new take on a simplified space civilization. But then it adds a lot of complexity with all these technologies. It's so satisfying when all your technologies synergize perfectly with your resources and give you a really high score. Yeah, I played Slipways for a good long while. It's too bad there isn't more content in the end, but I played for a good 200 hours. If you're addicted to cute little stuff like this, like me, well, here you go. It's not on this list, isn't there? Anyways, that was my list. Thanks for watching to the end. There you go. 9 games better than Elden Ring. And according to some people, Elden Ring is the second coming of Crust. Oh yeah, you think so? Then maybe you should try out these games. Maybe then you'll have a less crusty experience. But seriously, if you think Elden Ring is good, then you should really flip your lid over checking out Blasphemous or even Dark Souls 3. That's my favorite one of the Souls games, and it's tragically underrated. Anyways, if you watch my lists, you probably have a really good taste in games, okay? You're just out there looking for the coolest little cute indie games out there, okay? And wouldn't you know it, I actually made one of those. I made a game called Bullfrog exactly 1 year ago, where you're a frog that rolls around, and your tongue is like a grappling hook. But watch out, only the most powerful players can handle these controls. Bye everyone. That's not on the list, okay? Bullfrog isn't on the list, that would be biased. I'm just reminding you that I made Bullfrog, okay? Also in 2022. Yeah, imagine that. I actually made a game again, huh?